This is Dave King in the Nenagh Arts Centre interviewing Eleanor McEvoy about her current tour and new album release. Eleanor, welcome to Nenagh. Is this your first time? And what do you think of the venue?
It's not my first time to Nenagh, no. It's my first time in this venue though, and I think it's absolutely incredible. It's just beautiful. It's a lovely room, beautifully set up, and I tell you, we have a great way in Ireland to think that other countries are better. There's a lot of the very posh theatres in England with kind of very high reputations that come here and learn a lot from your crew, because everything is set up beautifully when you arrive, you know, every single thing according to the spec sheet is just fantastic.
Yeah. How did the UK tour go? And are you looking forward to going to Australia?
The UK tour was brilliant, it really was. I think it was one of my favourite ones so far. Apart from the weather, you know, there was some very dire flooding, and I know we've had our fair share of it over here as well, but I guess I didn't see as much of it over here, but it was quite frightening. And
did that affect any of your gigs? No cancellations?
Yeah, well, no, I managed to get to them all. Worcester was in trouble, all right, because most of the city was underwater and the bridges in and out of the place were shut down. But for the most part, it didn't really affect the gigs themselves. I think it was just my head and thinking about it and listening to the radio about the kind of destruction, and, you know, flood waters expected not to recede till next May. You know, that's fairly frightening, you know. Yeah. And it does make you think about global warming and all of those things that people say don't exist, you know.
How would you compare the UK audiences to the Irish audiences?
They're quite different, to be honest. I mean, I find even within Ireland, you know, a Belfast audience is very different to a Dublin audience, is very different to a Cork audience, you know. So yes, I think you do find a slight difference with the English audiences. But, you know, even a Tuesday night audience is different to a Saturday night audience. You know, there's different energies in a room, I find. And that's something I play off a little bit. You know, I walk on stage and I have a song in my head that I'm going to start with. But after that, it's just my energy, their energy. It's, you know, it can be the lights, the sound, the atmosphere. Something I've heard that day on the radio, something that's happened in the community that I'm playing in. That kind of feeds the gig for me. So it does make every gig that bit different, and the audience plays a part in that for me, you know.
You have a new album out, If You Leave, which is your 10th album. How long did it take to record, and how does it differ from your 9 previous albums?
It differs because it's quite retro, this album. I was listening to a lot of early Rolling Stones, Beach Boys, that kind of era. Yes. And Beatles recordings as well, actually.
You do a cover of a Beatles song, a Beach Boys song on your new album.
That's right, I do, yeah, God only knows. I did it because I think it's one of the most beautiful love songs in the world, and I think often with the Beach Boys version, because the arrangement is so magnificent and the groove is so great, you do neglect the lyrics a little bit, I think. And I've stripped it just back to quite a quirky version, just piano and vocals. And I think
the harmonies were brilliant in the Beach Boys.
Oh, they were super, they were fantastic. But very often when somebody has a beautiful voice and fantastic harmonies, you neglect to listen to the words. I mean, that's the beauty, I think, of people like Bob Dylan and Leonard Cohen, who don't have what people would call beautiful voices. You really listen to the lyrical content sometimes when a voice is less beautiful.
Ellen, in case any aspiring musicians are listening or will get to listen to this, how would you approach the songwriting process?
Every song would be different, to be honest. Typically people write the music first and then write lyrics. You know, I know there's songs when I've definitely done that, and songs when I've done the reverse, but in general I would tend to write both at the same time. I write with a piece of paper in front of me, not with an instrument, which is a little bit unusual. I used to write with an instrument, and certainly I think it works for a lot of people.
You're a multi-instrumentalist. Do you have like a favourite instrument, or would you just pick anything to write on?
My favourite way is to write really without it. I used to write on piano. When I started writing, I was writing on piano. But like, I've been playing piano since I was 3, so I found my hands were automatically going to the same old chords, you know. Like if I'm sitting on an E flat, my fingers automatically go A flat, B flat, C minor. You know, they automatically do the kind of the standard chord progression, if you like. And I found that was dictating the musical direction of the song, which is not what should happen. And when I started then writing on guitar, I found that the same old grooves were coming up, you know. So I thought, hang on a second, you know, why is maybe my limits as a player dictating how I write? Why is my training on piano influencing the chords I use? That's not the way it should be. It should be from the heart. So now I play, and if I'm playing an E flat, there's a reason why I'm writing an E flat. You know, it's because the lyric calls for an E flat at that point in time.
What songs can we expect to hear in the Nenagh Arts Centre tonight? Will we get a mix of the old and the new?
Well, I don't work with the set list, so
yeah,
it probably will be. I'll do a couple of from the new album, that's for sure, and then it'll be a mixture of the older stuff, yeah.
And hopefully Precious Little might be in.
Yeah, I have 2 requests now, one for Precious Little, one for another song of mine called Sophie, so I'll definitely be doing both of those anyway.
Sophie's deals with anorexia.
That's right, yes, yeah. It's and it is a song I do get requests for. I typically don't do it in a show unless I get a request for it, but if I get a request, I always do it. I got a fairly heart-rending letter there from somebody who's coming tonight, so I'm definitely going to be doing it tonight.
You took part in some of the YouTube recordings of songs from the shed.
Yes, I did.
How did that happen?
I was touring with a good mate of mine, Dave Rotheray, and Dave used to be with the Beautiful South and a lot of different bands, and he had a project called Homespun, and it was kind of a lot of different people from kind of super groups, you know, Damon Butcher from Everything But the Girl, and Melvin Duffy from, you know, Robbie Williams' band, and you know, all different people from different bands, a few of the Beautiful South, and actually Bella Hardy as well, who just won BBC Folk Musician of the Year just there the other night in the Albert Hall, and we were touring together, and they asked us would we do songs from the shed as the band, so they did that, and then your man said, well, you do stuff in your own right, Eleanor, why don't you do a couple? So I did a few of those as well.
How many did you do? I was looking at them today, there's quite a few of them.
Well, I did with Dave, I did a song that I wrote with Dave called Almost Beautiful, which is about Alzheimer's, which is all too common, although it's a slightly dark take on it. And then I did a couple of my own. I did Deliver Me, I did I visited it twice, so 2 different sets of songs.
What do you think of programmes such as The Voice and X Factor, and what would be your advice for the incoming singers?
Oh, I think they pretend to be about music, but they're not about the music. They're certainly not about any music business that I've ever been a part of. I think they're about entertaining television. I think they're about, you know, providing a bit of a laugh and a bit of entertainment for people at home on their couches. I do despair sometimes when I hear people who really should know better and do know better, in fact, saying, oh, but you're going to have a great career, you're going to be a star, you know. The music business is really, really, really tough, and even if somebody is supremely talented and extremely good, you try and talk them out of it. If they then say, no, I really want to do it, then you go, okay, now we're game, you know. But I find that I watch them sometimes and I see some incredibly talented people cast aside and kind of facetious comments made and just casually dismissed, and I think, my God, that person has an incredible amount of untapped potential and actually could be a really serious artist, and then I see them extolling the virtues of somebody else that I think won't be able to hack it. And it's my opinion, it's my judgment, but it's not about music. Whatever else it's about, it's not about music.
We had the wonderful Gemma Hayes here last year, and she told the audience when she met Louis Walsh and his advice. You heard that story, yeah?
I did, yeah.
I'm not going to repeat it because, you know, it could be slanderous, but...
Not at all. Louis would love it.
Well, yeah.
He'd love it.
Amazing story. She didn't take his advice anyway.
Yeah, no, she didn't. Gemma is brilliant. She's a good mate. She's a fantastic woman. She really is. Very, very talented girl too. My God, some beautiful songs.
But you and Gemma are like the old sort of fashioned troubadours. You tour the country with the guitar and you turn up, you do a gig and you move on, and it's just amazing, you know.
Yeah,
everyone appreciates that sort of artist.
I love it. I really do. I love just pulling up outside a venue, loading your gear and doing your gigs, selling your CDs and moving on to the next town. There's a kind of beauty to it. I think there's an honesty and an integrity to it that you can just sleep really well. And myself and Gemma had similar journeys in that we were with the major labels for periods of time. You know, she was with various major labels, and it's funny, you know, because we have had a glass of wine and we've sat down and said, so what was your story? You know, and we had very similar problems, I think, with the labels, you know.
Yeah.
And it can be quite funny sometimes, you know, the kind of situations you land yourself in.
Finally, Eleanor, you're on the board of IMRO. Can you tell me about your involvement with the Irish Music Rights Organisation and why you think it's important for musicians?
Well, you know, a lot of people seem to be confused about what IMRO is. They think it's record companies or it's this, that and the other. It's not. It's a not-for-profit organisation. It's really important to say that. And it's songwriters composers, songwriters, and also publishers. And in order for songwriters and publishers to make their living, they had to have somebody to collect royalties. So many years ago, they formed collection, rights organisations to collect royalties. So IMRO is that group that does that in Ireland. And I'm on the board because I was voted on by other songwriters. And that's how it works. You vote on a pool of people. So Paul Brady's just gone now from the board, but we had him with Christy Moore there. He's just gone as well. So myself, Mick Hanley, Neil Toner, there's 13 of us in all. And you just kind of oversee the collection of royalties, make sure that everything is done as fairly as possible.
At the end of the day.
Paid. Well, that's the thing. It's very confusing. It's actually nothing to do with being an artist or being a musician. It's purely writers. It's the writing end of it. Yeah.
Well, thanks for the interview, and look forward to the gig tonight. Enjoy, Nenagh.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.